From a woman waking up to boiling water being poured over her by her roommate.
While you were sleeping and poured boiling water on you.
Yes, correct.
To a driver hitting a child and demanding money for her car.
You want her to pay for your son's medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
These are the most terrifying moments in Judge Judy history, starting with Carol, who borrowed her sister Eve's car without permission and ended up hitting a deer with it.
Get the key and went, and the deer just jumped out in front of me.
The deer later died from its injuries.
Was the deer hurt?
Oh, it died.
But it's what Carol did with a dead deer that will make your skin crawl.
What'd you do with it?
Ate it.
There's no way she ran over a deer and then ate it. She even offered her sister a bowl as a way to make peace. Eve called it rigor mortis stew and refused to eat it. The thought of consuming roadkill right after the crash grossed everyone out, but Carol didn't seem to care. That's weird, but not as weird as the time a woman showed an extremely inappropriate tape in the courtroom.
See, so you can see they're lovable.
Apparently, Tracy danced with lizards as part of her job, and pet store owner Tim had sold her reptiles when she was away. But what Judge Judy saw on the tape made her question Tracy's sanity. Judy was horrified.
Monitor lizards have teeth, they can bite your fingers off, and these ones I swam with, took naps with.
Napping with monitor lizards? One bite could lead to an agonizing death, but you do you, Tracy. If this lizard still hasn't rattled you, how about a bedroom covered in ants? William Rogers had to sue his landlord for a full refund after he and his wife bailed a week early from their 4-week stay.
Thousands of dead ants in the freezer.
Apparently, the place was filthy and crawling with ants both dead and alive. The photos he showed in court were nightmare fuel, but because of what Rogers did next, Judge Judy had zero sympathy. He lived there for 3 full weeks, covered in ants, and then demanded a full refund. Judge Judy dismissed the case on the spot.
Okay, we're done. Thank you very much. Case is dismissed.
Now, bugs may be bad, but having a brain-dead mother is worse. Kathleen Kreftmeyer was facing her ex in a custody battle, but what came out in court was so traumatizing to hear that Judge Judy couldn't believe it.
You filed for divorce, is that right?
Yes, I did.
5 years before this hearing, when her oldest daughter was only 6, the mother decided it was healthy to tell the child that the man she believed was her father might not actually be her dad.
And you told her that there was a chance that he wasn't her father.
Yes.
If you think that's stupid, wait until you hear the reasoning behind it.
And you did that because I don't believe in keeping secrets from my kids.
Yes.
You're a moron.
Well, that was deserved, and Judy did not stop there.
You are an example of why people should have to take tests before they're allowed to have children.
This was pure, unfiltered rage at a parent who thought blowing up a child's identity was a good idea. While this was painful to hear, what this next man had been up to for years is beyond creepy. Mark was Terry's neighbor, and he'd been watching her private pool in crystal clear detail for years. But when Judge Judy asked him why, the reason he gave shocked everyone.
I kept finding used condos in my backyard right over her fence.
It gets worse.
Along with that, he was selling drugs out in front of the house.
Apparently, the used condos belonged to Terry's daughter and her boyfriend, who was also dealing out on the street. That's a terrifying thing for a mother to have to hear in front of an entire courtroom, but what's even more terrifying is what happened to Susan's dog. Susan says she hired Carrie to watch her 4 dogs while on vacation, but she came home to only 3.
While on your watch, her dog died.
It dug its way out, yeah.
Imagine dropping your dog off at a daycare and something happens during the time your pet is playing and it ends up dead. And all the employees can say is, babies play all the time, it was an accident. If you're gonna turn it into anything more than that, that's insanity. That's exactly what Carrie did, and Judge Judy wasn't having it.
That was your job, to watch the dog.
But what the defendant said next made it even worse. The defendant still kept insisting it was the dog's fault for always digging.
It always digs out of her yard. She had multiple walls.
Okay.
If you still have any faith left in humanity, this next case will shatter it. Wendy claims her dog's eardrum was ruptured during a grooming session at the spa. What the groomer admitted to doing was appalling. Given how sensitive a dog's ears are, hosing them should be a criminal offense.
What I'm seeing is somebody who's a moron giving a dog a bath.
It's painful just to hear.
Picks up the ear flapped. Nobody does that. That's stupid.
But if you thought this was bad, you're not ready for what can happen if rent goes unpaid. Karina Roy sued her former landlord over unpaid rent, but the big issue was Tupperware. Roy claimed the landlord assaulted her by throwing a whole cupboard of Tupperware at her.
And forced all of her Tupperware on me like that.
Let me explain.
She said the landlord really put force into hurling the containers. It sounded like a wild attack.
Tupperware cupboard, and with all of her force, threw it on me, and I was standing behind her, and it landed on me.
If any of this was true, it could land the defendant in jail for assault. But Judge Judy found Roy's story exaggerated since Roy was a histrionic.
My driving
You're not
has
stable. Anybody that walks into a bedroom, somebody's sleeping in their bed, to ask for 2 pieces of Tupperware.
But this wasn't the last unstable person who walked into Judy's courtroom. Kylie Jones here gave the most skin-crawling reason why she woke up with burning pain one day.
That she came into the bedroom while you were sleeping and poured boiling water on you.
Yes, correct.
Hearing this, Judge Judy demands to see the police report, which reveals an entirely different story.
It seems that all 3 females had been smoking dust for most of the night.
When asked if it's true what it says in the report, this is Kylie's response.
3 of you were doing drugs that night.
No.
And what she said next was the strangest thing Judge Judy had ever heard.
The officer is a fugazi officer.
Is a what?
Fugazi officer.
Everyone in that courtroom was just as confused as you are right now. Apparently, it means
That means he's fake.
Kylie was claiming the police officer who took the report was fake, as in, not a real officer. The entire courtroom was baffled. It turned out the officer was indeed real, but then Judge Judy pulls out the hospital records, and what the doctors documented was absolutely horrifying.
Who admitted you to the hospital that all of you were smoking PCP that night.
2nd and 3rd degree burns. The scalding water had destroyed layers of skin across her body, leaving raw, blistered tissue that would take months to heal. But what's even more disturbing is where the injuries were located.
Her groin specifically has significant edema, blistered.
The burns covered her chest, arms, and face, areas that would have been exposed as she lay sleeping and defenseless. The kind of injuries that don't just hurt physically, but haunt you forever. But that still doesn't beat witnessing murder right in your own house. 21-year-old Justice Jorcia was suing her former landlord, Paul Wallace, after a tenant stabbed another tenant to death, leaving her traumatized.
And that culminated in a murder that took place in the house.
The crazy part is that the landlord had put a bookshelf in the kitchen, separating the kitchen into 2 so that 2 men could live in the house as her roommates.
You cannot cut a room in half, a kitchen, which is a communal room, move in a cot and let people sleep there.
The landlord's negligence created a deadly situation, and what happened next was inevitable. One of those 2 men he had put in the kitchen ended up killing his roommate, forcing the plaintiff to run for her life.
I've been diagnosed with PTSD since the incident.
That earns her the deposit back, and she goes home $840 richer. But greed doesn't stop at murder. Some people will chase money even when a child is lying in a hospital bed. Robin claims 9-year-old Emmy ran into her car during school pickup, and even though Emmy broke her clavicle, Robin still wants money for the broken mirror on her car.
On what date?
I picked him up on February 1st, 2018.
What makes this case so difficult to hear are the details of the little girl's injuries.
Fractured clavicle and severe bruising requiring stitches to her chin.
Imagine seeing that and then suing the girl's mother.
Is you want her mother to pay for the mirror on your car?
Yes, Your Honor.
The pettiness of this woman is hard to believe. She should find a mirror and take a long, hard look at herself. Just like this next plaintiff, Doris, who had the defendant punched in the face at a funeral.
You were not assaulted?
Yes, I was hit in my face.
This whole thing started when a man named Marcus died suddenly, leaving behind a safe in his bedroom. He had told his sister Doris that the cash inside was safe for Carolyn, someone who had cared for him. But 2 days after his death, Doris took the safe with her.
Didn't you open the safe in front of her?
Not only did she not open the safe in front of Carolyn, she made another absurd claim that Judy caught on to immediately.
The only money in the safe was $5,000. Just $5,000. How much?
Everybody in the room knows there was more than $5,000 in that safe, and Doris had just stolen it. But the terrifying part came after this, when she had the defendant assaulted at her brother's funeral.
That you were assaulted at the funeral.
Yes.
Unbelievable. As if she didn't already look bad enough, she throws in a comment about Carolyn coming out of the closet and her family disowning her.
Family disowned her, and when she had nowhere to go when she came out the closet.
Money really brings out the worst in people, but the case Wendy Moore brought in has to be the most terrifying of all because of how shockingly brazen it is. Wendy Moore sued Nelda Bailey, whose daughter Perry Ann had died in a car crash while driving Moore's car. But what's even more messed up is that Moore's own 14-year-old son, who couldn't legally drive, had taken Perry Ann out in the car without permission. And here she was asking the grieving mother to pay up.
You want her to pay for your son's medical bills?
Yes, ma'am.
The crash happened late at night when Perry Ann, with Moore's 14-year-old son in the passenger seat, was driving around 60 miles per hour. The car fishtailed around a corner and flipped multiple times. Perry Ann was killed instantly at the scene. Moore's son survived.
She was just going like 60 miles per hour on a corner and fishtailed it and we flipped.
And despite her son walking away from the crash that killed Perry Ann, Moore showed up to court with a bill. She wanted money for 3 things: damage to the totaled car, her son's medical bills, and towing costs after the fatal accident.
And the car, because the car was totaled.
Right.
That's appalling just to hear, considering Bailey was still grieving her lost child. The entire courtroom was heavy with shock, and Judge Judy couldn't believe Moore's lack of heart.
For a daughter's pain and suffering and her loss of life.
Bailey broke down trying to defend her dead daughter. Everybody seemed to get it, but Wendy, who kept insisting that she was in the right.
I never gave her permission to drive the car.
It was one of the most callous things that Judge Judy had ever seen.
Because we live out in the middle of nowhere.
Miss Moore, there is something very wrong with you.
From a legal standpoint, Moore's case was dead on arrival. Her son was only 14 years old. He had no license. She left the keys in the car where he could access them, so that liability chain snapped right back in Moore's own household.
Where you made the keys available.
After laying out all the facts, Judge Judy dismissed the case and made sure that Moore got nothing.
What difference does it make? I mean, do you honestly believe that you have a case?
And here's the most